Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our fabulous FIDM fashion sketching workshop online, our very popular, the most popular. And I dressed for the occasion, as you can see, also our fabulous instructor and designer, Marina Leight. Say hello, Marina.
Hello, everybody.
We both dressed for the occasion, which is the theme of the night. Cozy creations, how to illustrate layers and winter textures. So welcome to everybody. I saw some of the cities, so I'm gonna give a shout out to some of you guys. Hello, Toronto. Hey, Montreal. Hello, Montreal. Chicago. Hello. Also, Tehachapi. I probably mispronounced that. Brazil. Hola, Brazil. Love it. Watching the World Cup. Brazil's doing good. Hey. Argentina. Argentina, ¿cómo estás? Buenas noches. Thank you for joining us. San Diego, Texas, Northern California, LA, of course. Hello, Los Angeles, Torrance, New York City, and anywhere else in the country, and anybody else joining us abroad. Welcome to our fabulous sketching workshop. And yes, a beautiful and talented designer that needs no introduction, but let me reintroduce to everybody is the one and only Marina Leight.
Hello, everybody. So it is the cozy winter theme. So we have to get all snuggled up in all of our layers because we're in Southern California, so we need lots of layers.
It's actually cold. It's been like, you know, shockingly un-Los Angeles weather, like cold, right, Marina?
It is, but I think I need to take some layers off. I don't think I can. This is a bit much. Did it perfect.
Hold on. Oh, wait, I have a great story, by the way. This beautiful blue wool scarf was hand knitted to for me by my mentor and former director of the FIDM fashion design program. And so here we are. And she made this for me, and it's, you know, I mean, oh my God, I love it, love it.
Story.
I love it. Yeah, so hold on, it's a little hot.
Yeah,
okay,
I know. Cold in Southern California is still.
Yes, no, that's a little better, All right, so today, guys, as you know, every time that we do these very popular sketching seminars, which so many of you join, so many of you love, we try to just, you know, shake it up a little bit and do different themes. We've done a Met Gala theme. We've done red carpet, right, Marina? What else have we done?
Yeah, we've done collection reviews. This one, we're going to be focusing on looking at how to illustrate the winter textures. So we're going to look at some looks from the runway. And then we'll talk about how we'll do a recap of illustrating the 9 head and then go into how to illustrate these heavy draped textured layers.
Perfect. This should be fun, you know, because it's really great. You know, of course, Marina will go through her fabulous way of showing you how to do the 9 head croquis, how to do the face, you know, where the bust, the waist, the hips, all of that. So you start with that foundation, that croquis, and then she'll teach you how to put on the clothes. And then this is like an upgrade because you're not just putting on the clothes, then you're layering it. So this is all about those cozy creations, knits and fur and layering. So I think that this is going to be fun and very timely for fall and winter. Now, make sure, guys, because I'm also doing it myself. Okay, I've got my sketching pad and I've got a ruler and I've got a pencil. I also have eraser. So make sure you have everything, guys, so you're ready and set for this fabulous FIDM sketching workshop, Cozy Creations, taught by the one and only Marina Leight. And I will see you later because all of you guys will get to share. That's probably the most fun and exciting part of the night because we get to see what you drew, right, Marina?
Yes, that's always my favorite. And I must say, even though a lot of you are saying that you are novice and maybe have never even illustrated a fashion illustration before, but I'm always extremely impressed at the level of talent that shows up here. So please share. I want to see what you're creating.
Yes, so please share, and you can also share with the hashtag FIDM sketch. All right, guys, Is everybody ready? Yes? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this. All right, I'll see you a little bit later. So let's get to sketching. Bye.
Bye.
Take it away.
So I first wanted to talk a little bit about some of the images we pulled, because I'm first going to talk about one of the keys to illustrating is being able to see how garments hang on the body. So in this first slide, we see a layered trench coat. Now, a coat is different than a jacket. Coats are very, very long. So this one qualifies as a coat. And then it has the collar that is done with the fur. And you can tell by looking at the material what the texture is. Like you could almost feel what it feels like by looking at the picture. Now, if we go to the next slide, we're going to be able to see some of the, okay, so here we go. And this one as well, you can tell that it has a puff sleeve. How do you know it's a puff? It's a photo. How can you tell? You can tell by the way that it is gathering in the seams, in the way that it reflects light. Same thing with the overcoat. You can tell that it's textured. And that's one of the things that's really wild about fashion illustration is that you can sell an idea, a dream, an inspiration, a look just by being able to drape and texture things differently in your drawings. And next slide. Okay, so one of the reasons why we also chose some of these is to show how it looks when you're layering multiple materials. And a lot of these illustration classes, we're just, maybe doing like one dress with a piece over it. But what happens when you start layering these heavy materials on top of each other? How do you know what the shape of the body is? Like this one's a perfect example. You have a full suit, you have a trench, you have an oversized bag, you have this giant scarf that could almost qualify as a throw blanket, but you can still tell what the motion and the shape of the body is, but how? So those are some of the things that we're going to end up looking at here. Is this one you can see a little bit better. I loved this one though, just because of how structural the sleeve is and the fact that you know that it's a super thick fabric, because you can't even, there's no folds in it anywhere. So that's got to be really heavy and thick. And then on this one, it's also super oversized, but can't you just feel it? Can't you tell that it's super, super soft, thin nylon with the fill in it? Because we're familiar with these materials and we can tell just by looking at it, by the way that it drapes and that it folds and it creases. That looks so cozy. I want the whole thing. Okay, so for the, you can tell that I'm already getting really hot. I'm getting shiny. It doesn't help that I have hair that's like literally like wearing a fur coat on my head. So I've got my fur on, I've got my sweater on, and I'm going to show you a few examples after we do the 9-head review. I have fashion illustration books by Nancy Riegelman, the very legendary Nancy Riegelman. Highly recommend them. You can buy the 9 Heads book through FIDM, through the store. And then the other one that I'll be referencing is Colors for Fashion. There's some really good images in this to reference for the layering of heavy textural materials. Now, these are in color, but it gets to show you how it looks when you have these textures. Like the sweater in my hair is a really good example because I use the same technique to illustrate hair as I do sweaters, but obviously very different materials. The main theme is it has these shapes and textures with shading in between it. So let's get started. So I have 2 cameras going, one on me, and I will use myself for reference as I'm illustrating. And then this is the sketch camera. So I will move it around a little bit. If at some point it cuts out of the screen and you guys can't see anything, feel free to talk to me on the chat. I will try to keep a little bit of an eye on it as I'm going. So if you guys have questions or anything as we're going, I'll try to kind of answer some questions on the fly as well. So as Nick was saying, we are we'll not have to go down there. Okay, hi. I'm gonna talk a little bit about tools of the trade. This here is a nice big piece of paper. You can use an 8.5 by 11. You can use a 14 by 17. I use the large, I believe it's 14 by 17. Yep, 14, 17. I'm using the large 14 by 17, and I will give you two different sizing references for while you're measuring and creating your template. You start by drawing a line down the center of your paper. That's going to be the guideline that you use for illustrating your figure. I like to keep a lot of sharpened pencils so that I can keep drawing and not have to stop, but always try to have a sharpener handy. I like to also have a blending tool because we're using pencils. And I also have a little bowl of erasers here, but I also use these guys. As you can tell, it's pretty far worn down. Now, if you are using a large piece of paper, you're going to start 1 inch down, and each head is going to be about 1.5 inches. So what you're doing is you're starting about 1 inch down. Now, if you're doing 8.5 by 11, go 1/2 inch down, and each head is going to be 1 inch. This is what I mean. I'm starting here, and then I go down 1.5 inches. That's one head. That's why it's called 9 heads, is that you're just breaking this up down the body. I was going to use a Pretty Woman reference when she's talking to Richard Gere about how all the different parts of the body reference each other and relate in measurements, but that is, I have to watch which movies I reference because a lot of people don't get the references anymore. But anyways, all different parts of the body connect and relate to one and each other sizing wise. And it's pretty consistent on all bodies. So I'm going to show you the areas that you can manipulate the different sizes of the figure to make it unique to your own personal aesthetic. And then I'll also show you more of like a traditional 9 heads illustration. So this little spot right here, this is our 0. Top of our head is a 0. Our chin, that's 1 full head size. So our 1 starts down here. So this is our 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can even do this as you're going, so you can keep track of where they are. And even though it's called the 9 heads, they usually end up being somewhere between 9.5 and 10. Now, you're going to do a gentle oval. My work tends to be a little bit more sketchy, and then I go in and I clean it up. So not always clean, but it will look good when I'm done with it. So I make a nice oval in between our 1 and our 2. We're doing a soft line. This is going to be a guide for where the shoulder is. That is this line right here on the shoulders. Now, number 2, that is going to be the apex of the bust. Apex, I don't have much of a bust, so it's hard to tell. Let me find a good shadow spot. Apex of the bust is the highest point of the bust. So if you see here, this is the point where it's still lit, and then it starts to shadow underneath. So this is where my number 2 line is. So this is apex of the bust. So it's not the bottom of the bust, it's just the highest point. It's like the center of a chest. 3 is going to be our waist. If you want, you can write it next to it very gently, so that you can remember and go back and see. In between the 1.5, 1.5 is shoulder. 3 is waist. Now, in between our 3 and our 4, you're going to do a very gentle line. That's going to be your high hip. And then right below our 4, another very, very soft line. That is going to be your crotch line. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the upper body parts, and then I will move down into the legs, and then I have a tendency to go up and do the arms. The reason I do it that way is that it allows for the figure to be more balanced. I find that in general, that designers, illustrators are more successful at having a more balanced figure when you start at the top, do the legs, and then go back up to the arms. Otherwise, sometimes the upper body ends up being really, really heavy, or the lower body ends up being really, really heavy, and they don't look in balance to one another. Let's see. All right. So we're going to do a little tube from the head down to the shoulder line. Now for the shoulder line, we're not going to draw all the way out to the sides of the shoulders. We're only drawing the top of the rib cage because this is a pivot point where our shoulder is. So the size from point to point on the shoulders can change depending on the shape of the figure's pose. So we're just going to illustrate the top of the rib cage and then we'll add the arms on later. Does that make sense? No one's chatting, so I'm assuming we're doing good. I got a thumbs up. Cool. So the top of the rib cage is like just a little bit bigger than the size of the head. So if you take your fingers and kind of go a little bit bigger and go sideways, then you know, oh, we're like that. And I don't know if you noticed, but all I did was like I marked it and then I came here and my fingers, your fingers will naturally make a little bit of a mark on the paper. That's the top of the rib cage. Now for our waist, you can make your waist as slender, as straight, as curvy as you want. This is an area that it doesn't affect the proportions. This is personal preference of shape size. So I'm going to come in like this. This is going to be my waist. I'm going to go out to the high hip. And then I'm going to come into where the crotch line is. Don't make your crotch too wide. You want it to be just like just kind of like the tip of a finger. And then we'll go and we're going to arch it up into that high hip. Like that. So we have a nice upper body that's happening. And now we're going to do the legs. Our knees are going to be apples. And our ankles are going to be happening around the 9. You can decide how giraffe long you want the legs to be. So I'm going to do my legs. I'm going to go right around the 9 and make them limes, small lemons. There we go. And right around 7, right in this area, is where our calves are going to be. I like to do my calves at an angle. So I give myself a nice little soft angle there. The calf generally curves out higher on the outside and lower on the inside, or you can have it even on both sides. Either's fine. Now, I'm going to turn my page because I want to show you how it makes it nice and smooth. You illustrate, your elbow is a pivot point. So what ends up happening, you put your elbow on the table and you very gently do a pivot. So it makes for a nice, smooth curve. And then you can turn your paper and do the other side. Yeah, nice. That's a much more curvy outer thigh. There we go. And then we'll curve it flat on the sides of the knee. Don't make it a point. Come out onto that outer thigh, or sorry, outer calf. And then we're going to curve it down into the ankle. Think of the shape here as if you were drawing a bowling pin or a vintage Coke bottle or something like that. Like give it a nice, soft, smooth curve and then curve it up into the knee. Okay. Now at this point, we're going around the knee. I'm going to make some little dimples here on the knee. And then I like to put a little bit of a curve on the thigh. You don't have to. You could go straight from the knee up into the leg. All right. How are we doing, guys? I'm getting some thumbs up. Cool. Just want to make sure I don't go too fast, but I want to keep a good speed. Ooh, lots of thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to draw the feet. I always keep stilettos in here for fittings. So the reason why fashion illustration figures usually have feet that look like triangles, because we're illustrating them as if they are wearing a stiletto. So if you notice here, let's see, I'll put it on the paper, how it has, sorry, it's a little dirty in there. So what happens when you have models putting on shoes for fitting that have been barefoot. It has a pointed toe. So, and you see how the ball of the foot is a bit wider here. So when you have the model standing, and let's put it this way, so it makes a little bit more sense to the illustration. Oops, get the reference right. It ends up making it like it's like a triangle. So that's why this is what it's based off of. It's based off of the fact that if you're drawing this foot, it's going to be kind of this shape. There's our shoe. See? I mean, this one's a little bit more pointed, but you get the idea. So that's why you have those triangle feet. So we're gonna make, let's draw them in, and then we can decide if we want it to be a chunky boot, or if we're going to end up making it some like super high lace up boots. Ooh, should we make some like crazy lace up like boot pants that come up to here, and then do like some oversized layering trench thing? I love all the things. Okay, so anyways, we got to get the foundation on there, and then we can start playing. Okay, so we've got our triangle feet, we've got our ankles, we've got our calf line. Something else that's very helpful for shadows is to put a very light line down the center of the leg to show where the shin bone is, because then that'll help you with shading later. Okay, so we've got our lower body on there. This is nice to keep lines for being able to illustrate your garments later. They're really good mark points. Now, on the upper body, there's a couple things that we really want to make sure that, sorry, I make weird noises when I read your guys' comments. So sorry if it sounds very random out of the blue. I'm just making noises. Okay, so I'm glad you're into the boots, Dolly. Okay, so we've got the neck going into the shoulders. I'm adding these little triangles here because that's what happens here in this little like pit on the neck. And then you can like also, once you get that little triangle right there, then it will also show you where you are going to have your collarbone coming in, which will go right along the edge of that line like that. Okay. So hopefully this is close enough for you guys to see. Bust, things like bust, waist, hips, curves of the body on the size, on the size on the sides of the figure is where you get to really personalize your figure based off your aesthetics. So this is the high point of the bust. This is where you get to decide size and shape of the chest. So you can mark it underneath as to like where the underbust is going to be. Now these, the side of the bust is going to go into the armpit, attach them. So even if you're doing a pec, if you're doing a bust, it makes it so that your underarm doesn't end up getting to be too low or too high. Because if you connect the side of the bust to the arm, it will end up having a much more natural flow to it. On the sides of the figure, you can't see because I'm wearing a big shirt. There's you're going to have a slight curve on the arm here, the upper arm, and then that will go into your bicep and forearm. This right here is also a pivot point. Pivot point here, pivot point here. So this is where your arm is going to bend from, and this is going to be like a pivot. It's like a pendulum right there. So the arm can move up and around, and it would be on that curve. So you can decide how far up you want your arm to go. You see how it creates, like if you were to draw a line coming down, it makes a half circle. Okay, and we're just going to make little tubes. And then we'll do another, is that a kumquat? Lemon lime? What's in between the kumquat and the lemon lime? Okay, now we're going to go into the forearm, which if you see here, you have your wrist, which is thinner, and then it goes into your upper forearm, which is wider. So we'll be doing the same tube like we did on the upper arm, but we're just going to squeeze it down into the wrist. Sorry, I've got a lot of stuff on. It gets thinner right here. And then we have to make sure that we give love to the wrists and ankles. If you don't give space for that bone right there, it looks weird and you can't figure out why. And lots of times I'll have an illustration that's shown to me that's stunning, but there's an ankle missing and they can't figure out why. Their legs are looking weird or their arms are looking weird because the hand is attached directly to there. You need to give some love to this spot. Okay. I'm going too fast. All right. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to do a quick review. So as I go through the different measure points here, we have a question about plus size and different shaped bodies. That's what I was saying, is that this measurement going this way stays consistent. You know, for the most part, there's slight variations where a torso might be longer, legs might be shorter, but the breakdown of the figure stays about the same. Where you get to decide like the physical characteristics of your figure, it's more in like the curves to it. So we have our one head here, go down, another head, we have the apex of the bust, another head, we have our waist. Just below our number 4 is our crotch line. Number 6, our knees. Right around our 7, we've got our calves. Ankles coming in around the 9. My legs are very long. You can have your ankles coming in at like an 8.5, and then your feet ending at a 9.5. But I'm going a full 10. I'm doing the full tenor. And then I'm coming up and did the under bust, which is hitting right under this point, and then go up from the sides of the bust into the armpit. And I'm adding these ovals. And then from the oval is where we have the upper arm. Coming down and going into the shoulders. Areas that bodies stay pretty much the same shape, no matter the size of the figure. It's going to be things like ankles, wrists, neck, areas that it's going to become larger, especially on female figures. It's going to be more bust, much more hips, much more thighs. Like there'll be much more accentuated, soft flowing curves. But the way where it all fits together with the height ratio stays the same. Okay, how are we feeling, guys? You guys ready to move forward? Perfect. Is there a difference with the muscles? Honestly, that just depends on the muscles of like how muscular the person is. So yes, I tend to draw very muscular figures. I used to tell a story that I had this aha moment when I realized that my mom was a ballerina. And so I grew up watching her dance. And so that's how I draw my figures. Like I have a very ballerina-esque, very muscular, very large calf muscles. And so it's really like, I would say if you're interested in drawing more muscular figures, more androgynous figures, like really just depends on what you find aesthetically pleasing and beautiful, what's inspiring you as an artist and a designer. Look at your own body, look at photos, images, and your friends are going to be some of your best references. Like use reference images. That's like the best thing that you can do. Okay, so we did the forearm is the same length as our bicep. I'm wearing a really big sweater. So, okay, there we go. See this length from here to here? If I bend it in half, it hits the same point. So this length here to here, same length here to here. Now, hopefully I don't get too cold. Okay, so we've got our bicep. Let's add now we're adding our kumquat. So that's going to be our wrists. And then our hands are going to do it. I'm going to teach you like my whole cowbell technique, which is what I usually do on the feet. This is the cowbell, which is the upper hand right here. You take the thumb away. This is the cowbell right there. There's our knuckles. And then the fingers come down into a long paddle. Now, things that make fingers look prettier in sketches and things is when you give them like a little bit of like a motion where it kind of flows through. So even if you just put one finger off to the side and put the others like that, it makes it look prettier. And then you can add on the thumb. The thumb's its own separate thing. It's got, it's almost kind of squared off right here. I don't know if it's shadowing, so you can't really see. So. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our hands on there, and you can make them little paddles if you want. And we'll add in more detail later. Hands are really, it's about shading on our, okay, how are we doing? We're doing good on time. Okay, so on our face, I'm just going to do a really quickie on this guy. What I want you guys to do, face is also another really great place that you get to kind of like personalize. The more, the softer, just based off of how our eyes are trained, the softer features, it gives it a more gentle, sweet look. The more angular, it either makes it look more masculine or it makes it look a little bit like edgier, a little bit more fierce. So you can play around with it and see how you want to combine things. So depending if you want to do like a pointy chin into an oval face, if you want to give a really strong jawline, make it a little bit more squared. There's a lot of different ways to give your figure. And this is all really important things to consider because depending on who you're pitching your illustration to or what story you're trying to tell, your figure needs to fit the story. Like if you look at fashion editorials, the models that Target is picking is different than the models Alexander McQueen is picking because they're telling a totally different story. They want you to feel something different. And the models are based off of that. These are your models. These are your figures. These are your people. So depending on what story you're telling, you have to think of those things. Now, between the chin and the top of the head, we're going to be drawing, marking the lines where the facial features are. And the center of the head is your eyes are your center of your head. So let's see, I'd say that's probably about my center is right there. Most illustrators starting out draw the eyes right in the center of the forehead because they think that's the center of the head. Now, I'm a really bad example because I have a massive forehead, but most people, their hairline starts like right there. I got like an extra, I don't have a 4 head, I have like a 6 head. So this is about where your hairline is because you want to give space for your hair. Mark in where you've got your hair. Now you're going to mark in a very soft spots for your eyes. The space in between the eyes should be about the same size as the actual eyes. I'm going to bring this down. Hopefully I'm not messing up the whole thing that I've like so carefully laid out. Okay. Love the comments. Hey, massive forehead is good. It's sometimes when it gets shiny, it becomes a mirror, but other than that, it's good. I'm fine with it. Okay, so we're marking in where our eyes are going to go. Now in between the eye and the chin, we're going to do halfway point and mark in, that's where our nose is going to be. Now, before I do the lips, I mark in the chin. The reason I do that is I make sure that I'm giving that space. Do a very gentle line in between. That's going to be the center of your lips. And then you can decide how you want your lips to be. You can do like, draw it as if it were a bird on a sunset, and then you put the mountains around it and do a line. We'll have circles. Okay, anyways, so we've got our lips. For our nose, since we're drawing it very small, we're just going to do this and mark in where the nostrils would be. And then you can do the shading in later. Okay, we're simplifying this. And then I'm going to go around this oval. So all I did on the eyes is I drew an oval and then I'm going around it. Because when a figure's that far away, which looking at me on the little tile is a good example, you can't see all the details of my face. You can see where the top line of my eyes are. You can see the reflection of my eye. You see where my nose is at, but you don't see all the details. So when you're drawing something from this far away, you're just going to be able to get the outside of the eye. You can put the pupil on there and the iris, but make sure it goes up into the lid. Otherwise, they will look very surprised and freaked out. I'm going to erase some of that. Add a little reflection, maybe get a little bit of the bottom of the eye in the corner. Give yourself a little dark spot in the corner of the eye. So this is pretty simple, already looks pretty good. So if you're using that kind of as a base, as you're creating this like very small face, it will make it a lot easier. And then let's mark in the sides of the ears. They're almost kind of like little beans right there, starting from the eye point, ending somewhere in between the nose and the mouth. It all depends on how big you like your ears. Okay, we have the foundation of our croquis done. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put another layer back on because it's getting cold in here now. And I'm going to add, hopefully this paper is not too thick. So the croquis is really great as a template. You guys just made, that's essentially what a croquis is. And you're going to be taking your croquis and using it as a template for being able to do, yeah, I can explain them. For being able to do several illustrations. Now it's a little thick, so you guys can't see this, but if you lay your paper on top of your figure, you'll be able to see your figure through, and then you can continually use it for drawing over and over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and draw directly on her so that you guys can see better what I am creating, what we're creating together. Now someone asked to do a really quick little bit on the lips. So there's a couple different shapes you can do. You know, when you're a kid and you would draw birds in the sky and you would just do them like this, same kind of idea. You draw your flying birds, giving a little bit of a curve like that. And then you can put small mountains over the top of it and curve under. So there's that. I also, honestly, I love just like a line with the circles like this. Things that are going to make your lips look really nice and realistic is putting little dimples in the corner, because it's a little deeper in the corners of the mouth. It will make it look more realistic. And even if you are darkening and shadowing the corners of the mouth, that will make it look really good too. And it's very simple. It's just like an oval with a line through it. That's all like where you add in those little teeny detail bits. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys something really quickly, and it'll give you guys a chance to get caught up. Now, this here is the Colors of Fashion book. This is a fantastic reference tool for illustrating clothing and figures. It has like a recap on the 9 head. It has all the good stuff. So I've marked some pages. That's not one of them. That was from class. I'm an instructor at FIDM. Please come study with me. Okay, so this is great for what I have on. These are the layers of fur. And you can tell just by the way it's been illustrated what the texture of it is, which I think is so cool. I love that. I love that we can tell what something feels like by looking at it. So I'll probably add some fur to our illustration just because fur is fun to illustrate. And on this one also very important. So let's do fur somewhere. Let's add a sweater somewhere, do some texture. You can purchase the book through the fidm store. They might be able to put a link up, but highly recommend it. This is a legendary FIDM instructor, and she was, you know, she literally wrote the book. So she was my instructor when I went to school at fidm. I am also an alumni. So if you see here, these are all sweaters and the things that make it so you can tell it's a sweater, the shape, and then the texture of the folds and the textures of the knit. So what we'll do is we'll look at how it folds here. We can tell it's nice and fat and chunky right here. And then you can see what the texture of the knit is, where it goes from shadows to light. Like that's where you see textures the most, is when a fabric or a material, anything, goes from light to dark. That's a perfect example. Look at my fur right here. You know where you see that it's like where you really, really see the fur, where it's going from light to dark. You don't really see it here. You can tell it from the outside, but it's those places where you get to see the difference between, thank you for Heather for adding that link. So the link is up there, guys, for this book. Highly recommend it. You see those textures where it goes from the light part to the shadowed part. We also have some good layering textures here where we've got a coat, we've got a jacket, and the thing that we're going to look at with that is how it wraps around the body. All right, I have more, but let's get started on our drawing. Now, what I'm going to do is I have to block in the areas before I add in the details, especially since we're doing heavy, thick materials that are layered on top of each other. So let's give her, I'm open to suggestions. The outfits, most of the time, end up amazing. Every once in a while we end up with a really strange one, but the journey is always great. Okay, so I'm gonna say, should we do fur mufflers? Not mufflers, one of those things, earmuffs. Okay, okay, cable knit vest, trench coat, earmuffs, boots. Okay, so let's start with the vest. I'm going to give it a really wide collar. Okay, so if we're doing a vest, should we also add a turtleneck? Okay, so I'm going to do a turtleneck on there. I mean, she's got a really long neck, so it's fun. Okay, so we've got here's the vest. I'm going to make it long. Let's give it a little, like a break in it right here. And then we have to add some wrinkles. Okay. So earmuffs, turtleneck. Okay, so here's our earmuffs. And that means that this is where the head is. If these lines start to get confusing to you guys, I'm going to start erasing some of the references. And then, so my face looks like an alien. That's actually a very desirable look. I'm reading the comments. Okay, so let's give her a little I'm going to give her a little wispy bangs here. That's cute. How cute she's looking. Okay. So far, so good, right? Okay, we got our earmuffs blocked in. We've got the hair blocked in. We've got that. We've got that. We've got that. Now, let's talk trench. We're going to do a trench. Let's do... Oh, hi, Sarah. Okay. Reference photos are your best friend. So we've got a collar that comes up and around, and we've got it break in here. That's what I mean by a break. Okay. And then this is something you need to consider. Your material needs to wrap around the body, and it has to wrap around what other layers she doesn't have on. It looks like she's nudies under that. She obviously has a dress, but it's something really thin. Ours has a chunky vest on. So it's going to wrap around, but it's going to be heavier, and it's going to come out more. Okay. So I will do the vest. I'm sorry, it'll do the trench. How long's the trench, you guys? Okay, no one's saying anything. Long. Okay, let's go all the way down. All right. There we go. So all I'm doing right now is blocking in areas. Then I'll go in and we'll add in some details. And then are we doing the lace up boots that go all the way to the thigh? Cool. Okay. So we'll just know that this is going to lace up. Great. So let's start at the head. Let's work our way down. We're going to start with our foofy earmuffs. I'm going to call them our foofs. These are our foofs right here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of the things that are happening on her head, make it a little bit more clear. I'm going to pick a pencil that has an eraser that's not totally destroyed. Okay. This is the hard part where I want to like zoom in more, but then I'm going to start hitting the actual camera. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I'm just cleaning up the eyes a little bit. All right. Now, hair. I blocked in this little area. So with the fur and the sweater, we get the outside shape and then we add in some of the shading detail. I'm leaving a little bit of it lighter because it has a bit of a light reflection. My hair is a terrible example, but here's a good one. So on hair, you get the shape of the hair. You get where there's the darker areas, and then you'll leave areas that are a little bit lighter where the light's hitting it. This is a good example right here. There's a nice little reflection point. You can also go in and add that with an eraser later. Okay, so we've got the top of the earmuffs. We know this is the shape of the head coming around, a little wider at the top where we can see it better. And then, does she have short hair or long hair? Is it pulled back? Do we know? Does it matter? Okay, I'll just pull it back. Okay, so I'm having her hair going back. See how I did that around? This is the top of her earmuff band. And now for her earmuffs, we're going to create the shape. Let's make it foofy like these guys. Now, what happens with hair, which you may have noticed on the page with the furs in Nancy's book, and also the way the hair is here, hair tends to stick together at the ends. See how it does that? I mean, it's much more so in this fur, but even on this foofier, softer fur here, there's a bunch of different types of fur on this coat. They like come together in points. Hair naturally does this. Eyelashes especially is a good example. When you're doing eyelashes, you don't draw each individual one. Okay, so now that we have the shape, we're just going to very softly fill it in. If you see, I'm doing a soft, consistent shape like this. And then we can add in some darker, I'm doing points like this, deeper shadows on the bottom. And then I can go in with my eraser when I'm done and pop out some light, which always makes it look really good. Okay, we got our foofy earmuffs. We're going to add some shading on her later as well. Now we've got our neck. The turtleneck is wrapping around her neck. See how it's curved there? And then it's not being really tight to the sides of her neck. You got to come out a little bit because we've got fabric and it's thick. So I'm making these curves, and then we have to wrap our wrinkles of the fabric around the neck. See? Bene? Bravi. Allora. Yes, so, okay. So next, we are going to erase all this extra information here. And you know what I'm going to do for the sake of this? Let's go ahead and give our turtleneck ribs, okay? Which means very gently, I'm going to be marking in lines that go straight up here. And then you know what happens when we get to the neck? You don't do straight lines through it. Those lines curve with the, I'm seeing if I have a reference image. It's okay. It's going to curve around and around. See, not straight. It has to curve where the fabric bends and curves. Makes it look more realistic. Now we've got our vest, and this is going to also have ribs on it. Let's go ahead and have those come in this way on this part. And now we've got to get some cable knitties. A cable knit, you're going to illustrate the same way you would illustrate a braid. This is essentially, I think essentially is my favorite illustration word. Essentially, like that makes it so much easier. Something similar to this. Same sort of idea on the sweater illustration. Let's see if I can pull this up quite quickly. Boop, 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 boop. Was all excited about showing you guys the sweaters that I think I ended up moving it down. It's okay. All these times that I'm looking for stuff in a book, it'll be your time to catch up. While I am looking up the, oh, here we go, sweaters. So I was gonna see if anyone had any questions. So you see here, we got the little ribbies and how you can tell that there's a curve to them. And then this is cable knit where you get the shape of it. And then we add in the texture details. So let's go ahead and add in we're gonna have a giant rib here, the bottom. Okay. That doesn't look good. Let's go this way. Okay. And then over here, we'll do like a very light texture to it coming through. I'm just kind of very lightly adding it to different areas, and then we'll go in with the shading later and pop in some shadows. And then the shadows and light is what's going to give it the weight and texture. Is that dark enough for you guys to see? Yeah, I think so. Okay, how are we doing? Incredible, amazing. Best night of your life? Amazing, awesome. You want to hang out with me all the time? Cool. Let's just hang out and draw. Okay, so we have our vest, and now let's go ahead and draw our trench. We have our collar coming around. And this has got a big old collar on it. Okay, sweet. And then we'll come around on this side. So let's get the wrinkles on the sweater. Okay, now let's get the shoulder. Notice how much bigger this is than the actual arms. Our arms were right here because it's an overcoat and it's bigger and there's more layers. So it's going to give you a lot more weight and strength to the shape by adding in and giving room for all of those different things. So we've got these big collars here and the big shoulders. And now we've got to give the weight to the sleeves. Same thing. I'm kind of like just marking in what would happen. Now she has the rib underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and have the rib come out on her hand. She's got her pinky sticking out. Okay. And any wrinkles of the coat are going to be kind of coming around like this. This is all just, it's like marking in the areas so I know where I need to be paying attention to shadows, light, folds, all of those sort of things. This isn't like end all say all, okay? If you don't like the way it's looking, don't be frustrated. Don't worry about it. Like it's, right now you're just giving yourself kind of blocking things in. Now I'm going to do the outside of the trench here. Some buttons. Okay. And we've got this trench coming down. This is where I gotta put this bad boy up. Okay. Did I go too high up? Maybe. Okay. So I have it where it's kind of curving down. And notice that the back is shorter than the front. That is a perspective thing. That's foreshortening. So depending on what's far away, what's close up, things will end up appearing higher and lower, even though they are at the exact same level, because you're looking at something that's further away. It's kind of like looking down a street and the street gets like, looks like it's getting higher and smaller. Same sort of thing. Okay. Thank you, Dolly. Let me know when you come. Okay. So should we give her another sleeve? Okay. Let's give her another sleeve. Ooh, should we give her a bag? A really, really, really big bag. Okay, this comes down and wraps around, and there's her thing, and she's going to be holding a bag. And it's a duffel thing that attaches on the sides, right? And there's the zipper. And it's Nikita Berrios. It's your femme ultra ego. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I just put the bag on there for fun. You guys don't have to do that. I just love the idea of adding a bag. Okay, so at this point, we have blocked out all these different areas. I'm going to go ahead and do like a quick lace up leg. And then we'll start working on all of the shoes. We're doing like this insane, like long lace up boot thing, but I'm gonna do it quickly because we're already 2 minutes after 6 and I want us to have time to do some good sharing. So we're going to be drawing for another like 10 minutes. So once we get, I'll take 2 minutes to get all the rest of the detail in here. And then we're going to be doing like a super fun shading and erasing positive, negative situation. So I'm going to mark her sides of her legs and I'm going to add wrinkles, little light wrinkles, because you know what her legs are? Her legs are now covered in thigh high. They're like, her shoes are pants. She's got lace up shoe pants. You like the envy bag? I've decided that your femme alter ego is Nikita. Is that what it is? Something like that. That's good. I think that's my femme alter ego too. So there we go. We can share it. Okay. So we've got the wrinkles on the sides, and that's where the you can tell that it's a tight pant. And I'm going to add in, if you want, you can add little spots to lace all the way up. And we're going to have, the cool thing about adding the lacing on there is that by doing these curves over the top of the foot, you can see the shape of the leg. The whole body is curved, no matter how slender your figure is, all bodies have a curvature to them. So you're going to lace it up, but make sure that you're curving it as it's going over the top of the legs. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do I'm kind of made it. Maybe I'm going to make it so that they get all crazy. There we go. That's fun. Okay. You guys don't have to do what I'm doing. Oh, I know. And then I'll have her legs tie right here. That's cute. Okay. Let's go ahead and do our shading. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to get messy, and then we are going to use our erasers, and it's going to make everything pop. So much fun. So make sure that you've got some good erasers to work with. It's okay if it's the end of a pencil. It's okay if there's not much left to it, but you need to be able to have something. And we're going to be rotating our erasers as we go so that we're always keeping a clean area if we're using it to create highlights. I recommend having a shading tool. These are amazing. If you do not have access to a shading tool, paper towels are great. You can take paper towel, you can wrap it around the end of a pencil to create a blending tool, or which a lot of people do, they use their fingers. Hard part about fingers, you can even see right now, see how there's a shine on my fingertip there? Our hands naturally have oils. So you can use your hands to do shading, but you're probably going to end up getting a lot of smudging. So just be really mindful. So what we'll do now is we're going to do like a once light overview and add a bunch of shading. We're going to do some blending, and then we will pop out with the highlights. Are you guys ready to rock and roll? All right. Bring her down. Okay. So she doesn't have any eyebrows. Kind of like maybe they're bleached or shaven. There we go. Good for her. Okay. I am using the side of my pencil, and I'm very gently doing this. Okay. Practice on the side. Give it a nice gentle, and I'm just using my hand. It's right here. It's holding right here on the edge, right there. And I'm using it as a pivot point. So if it ends up just being kind of like what you think looks like a mess, that's okay. This is what we're going to end up erasing later. So if you end up just adding in a whole bunch of shadows, I'm doing it where the light's coming from this direction. So she's more shaded on this side, but we're going to blend and create a lot of shading. Okay. So I'm just going where it's really, really shady. Shading around in here. Let's shade a little bit in here. On the sweater, I'm going to get it a little more foofy, doing it like this. Shading it into the shape of the sweater knit. Using the side of my pencil for all of this. Going up and around the neck. Remember, if it ends up being blobby, do not worry. You are going to go in and blend it and make it even more blobby. If it's looking beautiful and you're super excited, you might hate it in a minute because you're going to blend it. It's okay. Then we get to erase it away if we don't like it. There are no mistakes in design, just different versions. Okay. I just made that up right now, but it's true. Okay. Anywhere fabric overlaps, anywhere a material overlaps another material. So if like your arms are crossed, anything like that, it's always darker where you have an overlap. Always. Always on my students about that. Under the jaw, always darker. Around in here. Okay. Shading around here. Get your fingers a little bit more. Now it's going to be dark in here. Going to be dark in here. I probably should have erased that line. That's cool. Okay, the shading on the legs. Don't forget, legs are curved. Make it a curved shading. Remember, we drew that line down the center of the calf, that shin bone line. That's going to be a shading point. Let's pop this out so you guys can see better. Okay. There we go. All right. Shading along here. We got all these wrinkles. All right, so you guys, we're going to be blending and popping in the light, and that'll take us just a couple minutes, and then we are going to start sharing. So if you guys have questions, if you want to share what you've worked on, all of that is very encouraged. And then we're going to also have some more information once we wrap as well, some cool ambassador information. I think that was it. Sorry if I messed that up. Also, please post your work, tag the school, tag me. I want to see it. Please send it to me. I love seeing follow-ups from you guys and your work. My Instagram is Marina Leight Atelier, but if you type in Marina and then Leight, you will find it. Tag Nick. He's really easy to find. He's Nick Barrios with the blue check because he's fantastic. And okay, so we've got all this on there. All right, now at this point, let's go ahead and add in, let's blend. So I've got my tool. I'm gonna blend her earmuffs. I'm gonna blend her face. You can use your shadows to pull around to different parts of the face. So as I'm blending, I'm pulling it around in different areas. Like I was saying, like if it ends up getting really blobby, don't worry about it, okay? Going back and forth. I'm blending it in the shape of the material. That is key. So I know that this folds around here, so I'm blending it around. And then I'm pulling this down. Now let's get the dark part in here. Okay. We'll be stopping in just a couple minutes. Blend around. Now, especially on the boots, we'll pop in some light and it'll make it really cool and reflective. Okay. So let's go in and pop in some light and then we will be doing some sharing. Okay, guys? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the side of my eraser, and I'm popping in some light in these different spots to give it more detail and texture. So if you don't like how shaded it ended up in any areas, you can go back in and you can pop out the light with your eraser, just like this. Okay. I'm gonna make some highlights right here and then make some highlights on these boots. And I think we're about there. This is looking pretty good. I'm probably going to keep messing around with it while you guys are sharing. Okay. I want to give her eyebrows. Can't help it. And now, how do you guys feel? It's hard. It's reflecting on it. So I need to get it where you guys can see it. Like I can see it. Looks like it's got some crazy reflections. There we go. Yeah, it still looks super dark on the screen. All right. So what did you guys think? Are we ready to do some sharing? I would love to see what you guys have created. I'm gonna lighten her face. It looks good in real life, but in the video, it's looking really dark. There we go.
Looks so good, Marina. Oh my God. Wow, she is definitely cozy chic. I love that. I love the layering, and you really are so, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but just fascinated. I'm watching you, like when you go through the process of creating this, it really is, I mean, no wonder everybody loves, I mean, I know you guys know this obviously because you're here, but everybody loves to see fashion illustrations on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, and just the creation. I mean, imagine if you just, those 45 minutes you just spent, if you just like fast speeded it to like a minute and a half, and then here's the final product. Just wonderful. Yeah, so good.
Oh, thank you. It's doing a really weird reflection, but I swear to you, it looks good. Okay.
Yeah, no,
it's fine. It's fine.
The shading, the lighting, the texture. Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you like?
I'll have to post pictures of this. It's like reflecting crazy on the screen, but it's not about me. I want to hear about how it was for you guys.
Yeah.
I want to see some of your work. If you guys can share, I would love that.
Yeah, anybody who wants to share. Okay, here, I'll start. I don't know if you can see, but this is what, because I also took the class right now. So let me see if you can even see. Oh God, it's a little, do you see a little bit of that?
Oh my God, I love
it. So I did the cable knit. Oh, now I've disappeared. Did the cable knit right there, and a fur collar. Yeah, and now she's sort of disappeared. There, a little more. I'll put it on so you guys can see, but that's what I did. I know people are saying, I can't see it, I can't see it. I'll put it on my Instagram so you guys can see. I think it's because of the green screen. Maybe,
it's definitely because of the green screen.
Yeah, hold on. Maybe if I get rid of the green screen, hold on. Let's see. Okay, how's that?
Oh, yes, we've got it.
Now you can see. So this is what I did because of Marina. So this is my sketch. So I'm sharing. So you guys have to share. Stop it. So I gave her like hair, and your face is much more better. Is that a way of saying it? It's better. Okay, your face is better, Marina, of course.
No.
My lips, she looks like she got some injections.
I love it. She's fierce.
Yeah, and then this is the rest. So I gave her the boots because you were talking about the boots, and then the coat, and then I did texture. That's how I did plaid, and then I did I did the turtleneck when you started talking about the turtleneck, and then just the fur collar. But and of course I did the bag because you did the bag as well. So here's my share of drawing fall. So now you guys have to share. So please start sharing. I have some names. I'm gonna start. Okay, are you guys ready? So I was the first one to do it, and you guys are next. All right, exactly. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. We loved having you here. Loved being with Marina as always. We have to give a big shout out to our queens, Mary Stevens, the director of fashion design for fidm, for making my wool scarf back in the day. Bless her ever-loving heart. And of course, Nancy Riegelman for those books and all of that, and for teaching us, teaching Marina, teaching me, and making us better artists as well. And of course, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Don't forget, we also have a meet with an ambassador, and it's an online workshop. That'll be January 19th. There it is. You can see it right there. So you can meet with FIDM social ambassadors, ask them any questions, and this is open to everybody. So not just students that are enrolled or going to be enrolled into FIDM, but if you're thinking about going to FIDM and you have any questions about attending FIDM, being at FIDM, all of that good stuff, please attend this. It's going to be on a Thursday, same time as this, 5 to 6:30 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time, LA time. Again, that's January 19th. So save the date. And as always, like we said, please share. You see all the social media right there at FIDM, at FIDM College, all of that. Of course, follow Marina, follow me, and share your sketches with hashtag FIDM sketch. And on behalf of Marina, on behalf of FIDM, on behalf of fashion illustrators everywhere, a big, huge holiday, warm, fuzzy winter. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.